Okay, well, home again, and seeing as I keep promising gear videos and never delivering them, I thought I might just do it straight from my car. While I empty the car, I'll talk through the gear that I brought with me this time on the Murrumbidgee trip, and things I probably wouldn't take again, or things that I swapped out from my Murray trip. So let's get into it. First things first, I did want to point out that all the gear I'm about to show you does actually fit in my canoe. Just. This is a rundown of all the gear I took with me for a 4-week expedition through some long stretches of unpopulated river. Oh, my canoe, or Little Blue as she's now called, is an Old Town Next. She's not very fast, but she is extremely comfortable, which, as you'll find out, is what I tend to look for in gear. Welcome to the inside of my car and all the gear I take with me on an expedition. I'm just going to go through it as I take it out, so it's not going to be in any particular order. Okay, so it's my life jacket. So this is a Sea to Summit leader. In the pockets, I always store, when I'm travelling or at night, I always store my gloves. Kmart weightlifting gloves. I like the soft suede, and they're only about $10 each, so super cheap compared to other paddling gloves. I've got my Osmo Pocket 2, and this is what I do all of my handheld videoing on. Love this camera. I've also got tethers on my PFD, so my phone clips to this. I would never paddle without a phone on me, and my phone is waterproof, so that's handy. I have, so the tether that I've put onto the Osmo Pocket actually just clips to this D-ring, and then if it falls in the water, I'm going to destroy the camera, but at least I won't lose the footage on the SD card, which, you know, is important. The other thing I normally keep in the pocket of my PFD when it's travelling or at night are my sunnies. And the other thing I thought I'd mention before I start taking stuff out is my hat. I get heaps of questions about my hat, and I do love it. It's a Sun Protection Australia adapter cap. Next is my Irwin Quick Grip clamp. This is what I use as my camera stand behind me, sort of there. I've got this ball head with a thumb screw on the other side, so we just drilled the hole a little bit bigger in the upright, and that allows me to change the angle of the camera if I want to. So I have 3 clamps. This is the biggest one. Next, my paddle. A Werner Kamano paddle in fiberglass. The shaft is carbon fiber, so it's very lightweight. I love this paddle so much. If it ever broke, well, I assume it will one day, when it breaks, I will be getting another one. The 2-piece paddle actually really helps with transport, but it also is really good for when I'm packed up at night. I can just slip the paddle straight into the canoe. Or if there are cows around, I quite often sleep with one half of the paddle just outside my tent, so I've got something to prod it away with if I need to. Okay, next is the seat of my next canoe. So this seat came with my canoe, but in the back pocket I always keep my ropes that go at the front and back of the canoe. I also keep an extra length, it's about 10 meters length of paracord, so if I need to tie my boat off and there's no trees nearby, I can use that. And I've also got a very old irrigation sprinkler stake that I actually use as the stake to tether my canoe. This seems to go into whichever ground very easily. As you can see, I've bent it a few times, but it always holds. So, and it's nice and light. I've also got a toothbrush in there, which is good for cleaning toes, cleaning shoes, and any of those small cleaning jobs. So these 2 tarps normally slide in there as well, but they're absolutely filthy and they're wet. So they need a wash before they go back in there. I use these as ground sheets for my bags and also as a lap cover when it's raining, when I'm paddling. So rather than wearing rain pants, I just put one of these over my lap. I've used them for all sorts of things. They're about 3 foot by 3 foot. They're not very big. and just so handy to have, and they fold up really small. So next is my big duffel bag. This is the 120 litre Caribbee Expedition dry duffel. This one has all of my food and kitchen gear in it, and on every other expedition I've done it also had my repair kit and bits and pieces kind of bag in there. So it's pretty well packed in. Everything's modular in this bag because it's so big. If I don't do this, it's really hard to pull stuff out of it. So at the moment, as I say, it's just food and cooking gear and a couple of extra little bits. So I've got my big Lucy lantern, which is solar powered. This one is twice as bright as the smaller one that I've got. So this is the first time I've brought this one on my trips. It's big and it's heavy. You wouldn't take it hiking, but for canoeing, it's brilliant. Eggs, always take eggs with me. This is my thermocell, so to keep mozzies away. It's got its own dry bag because I don't really like the idea of the poison being near my food, so this way it's keeping it separate. So that's the actual thermocell itself. It's got one of these blue poison pads in the top. You just take that off and screw it onto a gas canister, any gas canister that's got a screw top. In there I've also got spare poison pads, quite a few of them. So I've got these Tupperware bread boxes. I've got 2 of them. I originally bought them for bread, and as you can see, I still have a little bit of bread left in. And I've got some old peanut butter jars that I fill with jam, peanut butter, Vegemite, and margarine. And I always leave a little knife in this box. So this is basically my breakfast box, and so that comes in the tent with me each night. The other box just usually has a loaf of bread in it. Everything else goes in an insulated shopping bag. This one is my kitchen kit, so my cutlery bag. So I've got an egg slicer, I've got my Milton antibacterial wipes, which is I quite often use to wash my hands as well as my pots. Strainer, lighter, salt and peppers. I've got my Opinel knife, which I absolutely adore, would not go camping without an Opinel now. Chopsticks, my cut down stemless champagne glass that with a straw, of course, for my Maker's Mark each night. Spoon. I've got some tongs, an egg timer, dishwashing detergent, yeah, those sorts of things. I've got the space, so I use it. This is my Cedar Summit Delta with a lid. I really like having the lid because it does help the steam stay in. It also means that if I accidentally bump it, everything doesn't spill in it. I just made this little elastic band to keep the lid closed. I've got 4 of these. It's a microfiber cloth. These are brilliant. I do not go canoe camping without multiple microfiber cloths. Metho bottle with metho in it. This is the Trangia metho bottle. I've also got an insulated mug, double wall stainless steel mug with a lid. Again, great for soaking food, things like couscous, but also good for keeping your cup of tea warm. Antibacterial wipes. My Trangia 27-1. I have bought a kettle for this that fits inside the pots inside, but I think I've used it twice, so I don't bring it anymore. A chopping board, but I've also got this little one which fits inside my lunch bag. I've also got a bag full of bags, spare Ziploc bags, just you always need extras. The other 2 bags are full of food. I do also take this, which is an outdoor canvas, what I call my tablecloth, because it just sort of, I lay it across my bed when I'm eating in my tent, and it just it is somewhat waterproof, so if I spill something it doesn't end up on my bed, which is quite nice. I'll go through food on another video. One of the other things I bought recently is this Jaffle iron that's designed for a stovetop, so it's a lot lighter than a cast iron one. Yep, that's everything in that one. So that's my big duffel. What I used to call my outside duffel because it has all of the stuff that needs to be outside the tent. Next thing, wheels. I recently bought a Sea-Tug. These are the wheels, which both fit really nicely up into the very end of the canoe. And then I've got the rest of it in a dry bag over there. So I carry 2 jerry cans with me, they're 6.5 litres each. I always have my phone. My phone is my navigation, my communications, my entertainment. It's, yeah. I also bring a spare phone with me in my tech bag, and a spare SIM card on my big trips, because if this falls in the water then I've got a backup, because I check in every morning and every night with my mum just to let her know I'm still alive and, you know, someone's looking out for me, which is great. my poop kit, hand sanitizer, toilet paper, shovel. So again, Kmart special, $8. This just screws on and it becomes solid and it folds up really quite small. The reason I love this shovel is because it's metal, so I can use it with fires as well. So when I have a fire, I can either rearrange the fire with it, or I can use coals if I'm cooking with cast iron. And I've also got a PLB. This is a KTI safety alert. So this is my emergency button. If anything goes wrong, this will send a message up to the satellite, off to, I think it's America, answers the call, checks out the information that I've registered, and then starts calling the people that I've listed. Ideally, the person that they call first knows where I am, and that's always my mum, because she's my check-in. I take this hiking as well as canoeing, and thankfully never had to use it. The reason I keep the PLB in my poop kit is because this is always easily accessible. And it's orange, so it's easy to find if I need it in a hurry. This is the rest of my wheels. This is really heavy at the moment because it's also got a block and tackle in it. So yeah, lots of bits and pieces in here. That's all part of the wheels. I take a couple of spare ratchet straps with me in case I very kindly get offered a lift with my canoe. If the canoe needed tying on, I had straps. I don't expect anyone who's just kindly offering out of the blue to carry straps with them. So I have 2 of those. And this is my lift and lock, which is a brilliant invention, Aussie invention. That is a block and tackle that can lift up to 150 kilos. That is so much lighter and smaller than a standard block and tackle. So that means I can pull my canoe out up very steep slopes on my own, which is why I carry 50 meters of rope with it. I use one of these, reusable shopping bags. In fact, I've got 2 of them. They scrunch down tiny and they're so handy to be able to move all these little bits and pieces in one go. So I have the bottle of wine that my dad gave me as a farewell present that I never got to have because I didn't want to waste it. While I had COVID, I couldn't taste anything. Water bottle, 2 water bottles, both 1 litre. They're just recycled bottles. My thermos. This one has a really nice wide mouth. It's really easy to clean. Get a cloth in there and clean out the milk if you've had a proper cup of tea. The chucks as a pee rag is just brilliant. They dry really quickly, nice and hygienic. This is my lunchbox. I have a little carabiner on it so I can clip it easily to one of the straps on my duffel bags, for example, when it's on the outside of the canoe. So this is my tech tub, which means it's got all of my tech stuff in it. I use kids socks to cover over anything that's got a lens. So in this case, my GoPro 9, which also has his fairies stuck on to try and reduce the wind noise. I would ordinarily have my GoPro 8 in this sock, but I'm recording on it at the moment. I've got a small power bank with a cord, so any last minute charges that I need to do on any of my cameras or my phone, I can do with this. This is my GoPro 9 batteries, so it holds 3 batteries. I've numbered each of them because that way I can remember which ones I've used and which ones I haven't. I've got another one of these for my 8. This is my wireless mic for the DJI Pocket 2, so the other camera I showed you before. I call him Hairy Harry because he's got a very cool little dead cat hat on the top, which just makes him look like he's got a cool haircut. I've got a very small little tripod base, and I've got my wireless headphones. Earplugs, so I can listen to podcasts or stories as I paddle down the river. So this one has my other 2 clamps. So all of my GoPros have a 1/4-inch adapter because that way everything has the same attachment. This one's just a bit longer and often sits at the front of the boat. This is my table that I have my lunch on while I'm floating. It's just an aluminium fold-out table, so that sits nicely between my feet in my canoe and sits down the side of me so that's within easy reach every day. And it keeps my food and all of my lunch kit out of the water that's usually in the bottom of my canoe. Okay, so on this trip I knew it was going to rain a fair bit. It's been a very wet year. So in this bag I have my poncho as well as a little tiny hiking umbrella. It's very small, but it folds out to a full-size umbrella. This is my rain jacket, so that's the black jacket that I wear in the rain. I actually really liked having both. I think if I'm ever going to do another wet trip where I know that it's going to rain a fair bit, I will take both with me. It's also nice to have a spare that if one of them's saturated, you can put the other one on. My boot scraper cum bee scooper. which actually is a kitchen utensil, my boot brush. So this is a silicone dishwashing brush. The silicone works really well to clean Crocs. My Maker's Mark, so that's what's left from my trip. Plastic bottles last a lot better than glass bottles, and they're also lighter. And my trusty little Nalgene bottle that I mix my vitamins in each morning. Okay, while I was out on this trip, I actually bought myself a Polar Fleece jumper. I haven't bought a Polar Fleece jumper for a long time. I have discovered and decided that I like Polar Fleece a lot better than I like down or synthetic puffies. You're guaranteed it's going to be warm. Even when it's saturated, it's going to be warm. I ended up sending home my down jacket in the post because every night it was getting damper and damper and getting less and less warm. Okay, so while we're on the last of the floating around the canoe type items, I've got my sponge. I prefer a sponge than a baler because this way I can clean at the same time as empty. This pot comes in so handy for everything. The reason I mainly got it was as a drip catcher between my feet, because my paddle drips always are in exactly the same spot right between my feet. And so if I can catch most of that in a pot, then I can tip it out really easily. But it's also made a good chamber pot in the past. Fire bucket, I'm putting fire out with a decent amount of water at once. And this also makes a really good carrying pot, you know, just to move stuff around. These are my leg warmers, so these make all the difference for paddling in winter. My legs don't get cold with these on. Now these guys I made myself. I sewed them, which is why they don't match. They used to be laptop covers for carrying your laptop safely, made out of neoprene. All right, next. This is my canoe cover. This would go over my canoe every night and keep whatever I left in my canoe nice and dry, because there was heavy dew or rain every night. Brilliant piece of kit, and I would highly recommend taking one with you. I just shove it right down the front, right in the pointy bit of the bow, and it's out of the way. Nothing else fits in that spot. These 3 bags would sit behind my seat in my canoe. So this had my Polar Fleece jumper in it. It has my snack tub. So this is the second tub that used to be an olive tub. Even if it gets dripped on constantly from my paddle drips, it never lets water through. So really invaluable. I mean, it's basically rubbish, but I would never throw that out now. I've also got my gas cooker. So this is a Gasmate. Well, it's effectively a jet boil, but it's not a jet boil. This is a canister of gas, and this is the end of an old Polar Fleece jumper that I sewed up, because as you might be able to see, there's a whole lot of scratches on this. I generally fill this one up from a bigger container because it's cheaper to buy gas in the big containers. I've got a little attachment that I can join 2 together and it fills this one up. That way I don't have to buy as many small canisters and throw them away either, which is great. Better for the environment. So I actually prefer this design than the jet boil one, which is why I bought it. It's got a little pot stand in there. You put your gas canister on that, doesn't fall over as easily, and it's got a little gas burner. And it's a litre. Generally use it just for boiling water and cooking eggs. That's why I've got the Trangia with me as well. The other thing, my Columbia windstopper jacket. That is so much nicer to paddle in if it's a foggy day or if it's raining really, really lightly. This is good because it dries out really quickly. It's not that plastic noise of with every stroke, so that's, yeah, great for canoeing. In my snack tub, I keep snacks. A little old juice bottle that I fill with lollies of some kind, so at the moment they're jelly beans, and Skittles. I've got my Go-Go juice, as I call it. It's a Boost Energy. So this is caffeine as well as vitamins, so I have 1 tablet of those every day. It's like my morning coffee. I have multiple versions of the iced tea sachets that I like. Apricot bars. I also have a Tough Hands in there, so this is moisturiser that's really good for cracked hands. So I just decant that into a shampoo bottle because it's easier to fit in there. I usually have some cheese sticks as well. These are shelf-stable cheese sticks, and always some Snickers. I also, because I had COVID, had my puffer in here as well as some Panadol and some butter menthols. This one is my town bag. So this has all of the things I need when I first get into town without having to rummage through all my other kit to be able to have a shower and put some clean clothes on. So I have a small handbag in here, my MacBook charger and my Samsung charger for my phone. And then this is the rest of everything that's in here, which is a few pieces. Is actually my charging station. So I've got 10 USB ports that all deliver 2.4 amps. So although it's quite large, because I have so much tech with me, it's brilliant to have that. Saves so much time. I can just put everything on charge at once and I'm ready to go the next morning. I wish I'd had that on my Murray trip. Instead, I had a couple of smaller ones and I only had the ability to charge 6 things at once. Also in my town bag, toiletries, of course. Anti-static spray, because all of my gear is synthetic, so therefore it sticks to me, clings to me, and I hate that. Sanitary items for women. Unfortunately, fact of life, if you're a girl and you're out there, you have to deal with it. And then lastly, I've got my town clothes. I've got some spare Croc sandals. I have some COVID rat tests because I needed to test myself. I have another spare shopping bag, so this is how small those shopping bags fold down to. Spare pair of sunglasses in case I break the ones I've got. I have a sundress which I use as my dressing gown when I'm in accommodation. And then a set of town clothes. So I've got a t-shirt, a bra and a pair of pants. I have some washing detergent pods. These are just so convenient. It's like one serve in one pod. When you stay in caravan parks, they don't provide pegs to dry your clothes on the clothesline. So I've bought some steel pegs. This is just my spare medication. So there's an asthma inhaler and some Panadol and stuff in there. And lastly, I have bra bags. I bring 5 of them because I've got a few woolen tops and a couple of bras. I don't mind putting the bras together in one bag, but the woolen tops need one bag per top. They easily get holes in them in the Merino Ultrafine tops. It doesn't take up much space. They're very light, nice and easy to wash everything in one go that way. Every expedition that I go on, I fight with myself as to whether I need a town bag or not. Invariably I'll take one, and invariably I'm thankful that I did. Some people are happy to wear their paddling clothes walking around town. Although mine are very comfortable, they don't look very good. So it's nice to look a little bit normal when you're walking around town. If you're a person that doesn't like to explore a town very much and you're really just there to recharge, clean and take off again, then you wouldn't need a town clothes bag. But I like to explore the town a bit. Now this is the stuff that would normally go inside my large outside duffel, the 120 litre duffel. But because I had to take 2 weeks worth of food with me on that last stretch, this stuff got relegated to its own dry bag. This has my neoprene booties in it and I wouldn't go on an adventure without them again. They're brilliant for when it's cold. I would recommend taking a pair of woolen socks to wear inside because the wool will help you keep that extra warmth in. The neoprene is very thin on these. I've also got a spare pair of paddling gloves. These are the Cedar Summit paddling gloves, which are about $35 each. I don't like them as much as the Kmart gloves that I have. They're not as warm. They're good in summer because they're cooler. I've also got a roll of Gorilla Tape because it fixes everything. This is the Big Blue 28 watt solar charger. I've put these extra carabiner loops on so that I can clip it onto my duffel bags behind me when it's a nice day, when it's not raining. I rarely use this, but it's really good to have as a backup because if I do run out of batteries and I can't send a message to mum to check in, she'll get really worried. So at least I can, even on the worst day, I can get enough power to partly charge my phone. This is my repair kit bag. Tent repairs, sleeping mat repairs, Milton antibacterial tablets that I clean my jerry cans and drink bottles with when I'm in town. Sewing kit in there. I've got a little tiny thing of bleach, which is really handy when you want to clean your pea rag, for example, or anything really. I've also got some seam sealer in a little tub, Gorilla Glue in a little tub, a refill for the lighters, tent pole repairs, spare rope. Oh, I've even got a spare head torch in here. That is all of my repairs in a nice little soft bag, so it squishes into a dry bag really well. This is my fire kit. That's my other lighter. Riggers gloves, which are great for collecting firewood or moving hot pots, and a whole stack of firelighters. I use firelighters and I don't see why people don't use them. We have the technology, enjoy it. In here, it's another little bag that I've sewn myself, is my platypus filter. So this is my water filter, and the dirty water bag, it flows really well. It does about 2 litres a minute, which is brilliant. I do not like my Sawyer squeeze. I have one and I won't use it unless I break this one. My first aid kit. So this is all the first aid kit that you don't use on a regular basis. So things like Band-Aids, Panadol, Betadine, any of those sorts of cuts and scrapes kind of things, they stay in my clothes bag because I use them almost every night. But this is the stuff that, you know, if you've really cut yourself or really hurt yourself. This is the EVA mat that I put in the bottom of my canoe. It keeps my ankles off of the cold bottom of the canoe. When I cross my legs, my ankles get really cold. So this just makes it, well, not only insulates me, but it's also a lot more comfortable. Okay, so my tent bag. So in here I've got my tarp. So this is the big tarp that goes over my tent with the required pegs and cords and prussics and all sorts of things that help me put the tarp up. These are the tarp poles. This is my tent, and it's got the ground sheet and my doormat in there as well. And these black dry bags are awful, and I won't use them again. Not a big fan. But the other one of these dry bags, which was really disappointing that it stayed wet, was for my quilt. The problem is that these, the webbing seems to wick water into the dry bag. Bizarre. Anyway, so each night I'd open it up and I'd have a very damp pillow. Most annoying. So this is just a little pillow that I cut down myself, cut it in half and sewed it back up. And it's got a very filthy pillowcase on it. And also my quilt. It's just a regular single polyester quilt for high warmth. So lastly is my inside duffel bag. Now this is also a Caribbean Expedition, but this one's an 80 litre. So easy to get in and out of, as you can see. 2 Lucy Lux lanterns. You don't need to carry 3, even though I do. Because I'm recording, I need lots of light at night. So I'll have one in front, one behind, and possibly one off to the side. So this one is the cool white, and this one is the warm white. Oh, and I've just turned it on. Pop them up and turn them on. All 3 of them are solar chargeable, and they've also got this port, which if in an emergency, you wouldn't use it as a regular power bank, but it can be a power bank as well. They're only 2000 milliamp hours, so you're not going to get much charge out of one, especially not if you're relying on solar panels, because they charge really slowly. But they're great if you have run out of power. It's great to be able to rely on the sun to just give you enough light each night. This is my power bank bag. Cables, scissors, tweezers to get SD cards out. Highly recommend that. 6 power banks, a spare pair of headphones, and another tripod base for cameras. Each of these are my power banks. I don't like the power banks rattling against each other. I've got lots of spare pairs of socks that have holes in them, so I just cut the foot off of the sock and sewed it up, and it fits my power bank perfectly. So they're not all the same, as you can see, they're different sizes. These 2 are 20,000s. So those 2, this is a 15 and that's also a 20. So I've got heaps of power, 40, 80, 115,000 milliamp hours. Those take quite a long time to charge, so that's why it's really handy to have that power station for charging them. I've also got another tech bag. So this is my Rode VMP Plus, GoPro battery case and charger. I've got another tripod base because this is really good for the Rode mic. Band-aids. This is a key light for when I'm videoing. This is the inside bits and pieces bag. A couple of little extra medical things. So I've got super glue for gluing things like cuts on the sides of your fingers, betadine and stingos, and some pens. I've got a Cedar Summit microfiber towel that this is the only thing I use as a towel to actually dry myself. I have my asthma spacer because when I had COVID, I needed to take a puffer all the time. I have my reading glasses in this case. There is nothing worse than having broken reading glasses and not being able to see your phone. I have a little thermometer and humidity measure. I've got a head torch, my brush, my little phone stand, which is very handy when you're watching YouTubers in your tent at night. That's my FlexTail gear pump, and it just pumps my mattress up really fast, and I like the fact that I don't have to blow it up by my mouth, which means that I don't get as much moisture inside the mattress and therefore it doesn't get mold in it. That's my little tent clothesline. I've got a video on what that is and how to use it, and I've also got a Mora knife. That's more of a security thing rather than a using it thing. I don't think I'm going to take that again. This time I took my MacBook Pro. That was a pain in the bum and I'll never take it again. Small enough, but heavy, and it's just the wrong size for fitting in this bag. Because it's rigid, everything doesn't sort of fit in here as nicely. This is the everything that's not clothes bag. This is my fitted sheet that I made for my mattress, which also has a elastic band underneath to hold the sides in. My first aid kit, so this is everything that you use regularly, things like Panadol and lots of stuff. Deodorant, it's always nice to put deodorant on when you put a new shirt on, even if you only put a shirt on once every 3 days. Beanie, does up. I sleep with that. That's generally what I use as my hood. I've got a few pairs of woolen socks. I have my neck muff, which is brilliant for cold, foggy mornings. I've also got these wrist supports. I've got an old sock that I cut the top off and I cut the heel out of, so that kind of makes a nice liner for it because this is neoprene and it sweats. And I often sleep with this on. So you may have seen it in some of my videos. I get carpal tunnel from paddling. If I've had a big hard day going into a headwind, my wrists really hurt. So I've got one for each hand. All of my undies and socks. This is the tripod I use around camp. That's what I usually put my pocket onto in my tent to talk to it at night. This is my clothes bag, so that's just got spare tops and thermals in there. I also have a cut down yoga mat, which I put underneath my mattress. It folds down to nothing. It's about half the length of a normal yoga mat. Knowing that I don't have to clear a site fully before I put my mattress down on it each night is worth the space that this takes up. I don't want to get prickles popping my air mattress, so I put this under the main part of where I lay. So therefore I know I'm not going to get holes in it. I slept for 10 nights on the Murray with a popped air mattress and it just wasn't nice. This is a new version of the same air mattress. This is the Zenply Monster Mat Single. It blows up to about that thick. It's nice and quiet. There's no crinkle. It's enormous. It's huge, but I just wouldn't go canoe camping without it. It's so comfortable. It is like sleeping on a mattress at home, which is why with the fitted sheet and the quilt and a nice pillow with a pillowcase, I sleep like a baby every night. So that's my kit. That's everything. It's a lot of gear, but most of it I will always take with me. I would like to try cutting down a little bit on how much gear I take. I'm just a heavy camper. That's all it comes down to, really. I like my comforts. So there you go. That's my kit. And I hope you've enjoyed the run through. This video is going to be very long, I'm sure, because I have a lot of gear. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I hope you got something out of that. If nothing else, then a good giggle at how much stuff I actually take with me. So even though I've got my gear pretty much dialed down now, it does evolve over time. I'm constantly changing things out and mixing things up or thinking of a new way to do something. And so invariably for my next trip, I'll be taking different stuff as well. This gear that I've gone through today is different from the gear that I took on my Murray trip. I have done a much more comprehensive gear video for my Murray trip, so I'll eventually get around to posting that, but I thought we'll do this one quickly and easily, and you'll be able to see what I take with me.